Good morning, students. I hope you've had a chance to get outside today. It's in the 60s and it's supposed to go up to the low 70s. So we finally have a bright sunshiny day, but it is supposed to rain later, so be sure you get outside before that rain comes. Let's take a look at our morning message. April 29th, 2020. Dear students, we have been learning lots of nursery rhymes. What do you remember about nursery rhymes, Mrs. Kilmer? Okay, let's go back and reread that. We have been learning lots of nursery rhymes. That's true. In the learning calendar, every few days, there's another nursery rhyme. And for some of you, I know that you already know them, so you're reviewing them or remembering them. But some people are learning some of them for the first time. Let's see. What do you remember about nursery rhymes? Mrs. Kilmer. So, what do you remember about nursery rhymes? We learned about nursery rhymes in December and January when we were learning about traditions, different kinds of traditions. And one thing we were learning about were traditional stories, traditional tales, folk tales, fairy tales, and nursery rhymes. Do you remember what we learned about nursery rhymes? I think they rhyme. Can you think of some more things? Can you count? They rhyme. They're kind of short. I've got a little poster to help us remember. So, a nursery rhyme is a short, traditional song or poem for children. A short, traditional song or poem for children. And I've got 3 little examples here. Can you think of who that is? I see a cow jumping over the moon. Are you ready? You could say, hey diddle diddle with me. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle. The cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. Okay, here's another character, right? These are actually characters, just like when we study about books and read books. These things, these animals and people in nursery rhymes are characters. So here I see the character Humpty Dumpty. You ready to do that one? Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. And then down here, I see, you know who that is? Little Miss Muffet. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider that sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. And curds and whey, see, she's eating it out of a bowl. Curds actually is the first step in making cheese. When you're on a farm, on a dairy, and they take that milk and they start to make cheese with it, the first thing you end up with is curds and whey. Whey is like the liquid, and then they squinch the curds together to keep making cheese. Anyway, so this is a reminder about what nursery rhymes are. And in fact, nursery rhymes are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. And when I say hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and when I say 400s, I'm not exaggerating. Remember, exaggerating is when you say something is a lot bigger or longer or stronger or taller than it is. I am not exaggerating. Most nursery rhymes, so the most famous nursery rhymes, are more than 400 years old. You remember I read to you Old Mother Hubbard? Well, the character of Old Mother Hubbard is from the 1500s. From the 1500s. We're in the 2000s. It's from the 1500s. And if you think about Mother Goose, if you take a look at Mother Goose, she's this grandmother kind of character who's connected to so many nursery rhymes. And she's from the 1600s. These nursery rhymes were published together as Mother Goose stories. This character is from the 1600s. Wow, and that's so far back. 1600s, I'm making a connection to 1608 when Jamestown, remember we learned about Jamestown getting settled? So she's from the 1600s. Another interesting thing about the nursery rhymes that you're learning is that usually you are learning a kind of short part, the first part or short version of it. So for example, with Mary Had a Little Lamb, you guys last week just learned this first little part. But if you look At a traditional version of a nursery rhyme like Old Mother Hubbard, it can actually be quite long. And sure enough, in this Mother Goose, if you look at like the Jack and Jill, you guys just learned the first part of Jack and Jill. And remember, I added a bit because my song that I teach every year to students is a little longer of Jack and Jill. And but the Jack and Jill in here is even longer. And one other little reminder about nursery rhymes, I remember how it was so fun in the Old Mother Hubbard book to try to find out and figure out who these little characters were in the borders from other traditional nursery rhymes. So this has been all about these really old nursery rhymes from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But what is so interesting is that one of the nursery rhymes that you learned last week is only about 100 years old. And you learned this last week, and I actually read this book to you a while back. We read this book when we were learning about Abraham Lincoln, actually, because there's a connection to Lincoln that I will explain later. So today I'm going to share with you this book. That's the original version of Mary Had a Little Lamb, because Mary Had a Little Lamb was only written and published about 100 years ago in 1828 by Sarah Josepha Hale. Illustrations by Tomie dePaola. And if you take a look, I see Mary and her lamb on the front. And if you look close up, you can see how the illustrations are reminding us of other Tomie dePaola books that we've seen. He has a way of drawing people's faces. He has a way of drawing things. It looks like the setting is on the farm. There's the back. Okay, here we go. And right as we come on the very first page, there's a picture of a barn and a picture of a house, and it says Sarah Josepha Hale's house, Newport, New Hampshire. That's just a little historical detail. Tomie dePaola actually went to visit the house that belonged to the original woman who wrote this nursery rhyme. Mary Had a Little Lamb by Sarah Josepha Hale. Illustrations by Tomie dePaola. And here, I think we're seeing on the title page a picture of Sarah Josepha Hale writing at her writing desk. Oh, and there's a little picture of a still life, right? A still life is a painting that has things from everyday life, maybe sitting still on a table, and there she is writing at her table, and you can see her initials, S.J.H. on the corner there. And there's a little lamb toy. Oh, and on this page, we have the song. You know, Mary Had a Little Lamb can be sung as a song also. So there's the music, and there's like a little portrait of the imagined Mary and her lamb. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Oh, wow. To make the connection to snow, the illustrator has the first picture on a snowy day. And there's Mary, maybe almost at the birth of her little lamb in the barn. Isn't that a lovely detail? Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Oh, and there Mary is going around the farm. She's feeding the chicks and hens, and there's the lamb. And there she's carrying in the wood, and there's the lamb. And there's a cat watching too. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Oh, I think that last page is showing us how everywhere she goes on the farm, the lamb follows her. And then when she gets to go play also. Oh, and here it's nighttime. And I see Mary up in her attic reading, and there's the lamb with her there. And there she's in the kitchen doing some washing, and the lamb is with her there. And there she's finally gone to bed, and the little lamb is resting at the foot of her bed. And I noticed another neat Tomie dePaola detail. You know, it's so funny. You guys know about Mo Willems and how he puts pigeons in his books. Well, you know what Tomie dePaola has put in his books for a long time before that? these little doves, which is a sign of peace. He followed her to school one day. That was against the rule. Oh, look, she's walking into town. You can see different buildings in the town. There's a big church. Walking down the street, and little lamb is following her. And then she has to keep walking, right? So I'm going to stop and think about the way the book is going. It's like it separates out the parts of the nursery rhyme, and it tells a short bit of the nursery rhyme, and then it has a full page illustration without words that kind of are telling you the details of the poem. Like this is about everywhere that she goes, the lamb was sure to go. And this is about how she has to keep walking to school, and the lamb is with her. And sure enough, if you look at this cute little detail in the schoolyard there, the other students are noticing, oh, look, she brought a lamb. It made the children laugh and play to see a lamb at school. And the children are excited and happy to see the lamb, petting it. Oh, notice they have hooks for their stuff, just like we have in our first grade trailer. Hooks for all their stuff in the hallway. Oh, look what mischief the lamb is getting up to. Jumping over the desks. And look at the surprise on the face of the student and the teacher. And it's only 8 in the morning. Look at that. And already the lamb is up to mischief. I hear some of you are learning to tell time. 8 o'clock. And so the teacher turned him out, but still he lingered near. So the teacher had to make the lamb leave the classroom. That's turned him out, made him go out. But still he lingered near. To linger is to stay around. And waited patiently about till Mary did appear. So he just waited patiently for her. And then he ran to her and laid his head upon her arm, as if he said, I'm not afraid. You'll keep me from all harm. So the little lamb ran to her like she is its protector, right? She will protect it from everything. What makes the lamb love Mary so? The eager children cry. Oh, Mary loves the lamb, you know, the teacher did reply. So they're all asking, why does the lamb like her so much? And the teacher says, because Mary loves it. And you each gentle animal in confidence may bind, and make them follow at your call, if you are always kind. So it's a little hard to understand. The language is a little tricky. It says, and you each gentle animal in confidence may bind. It means you could get every animal to want to be with you too, and make them follow you if you are always kind to them, if you are always kind. And then here we see all the students with maybe their pets or animals from their farms, because I think this story is taking place in the country where a lot of these children live on farms. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go read the whole thing through once a little more quickly without stopping, so you can enjoy the sound of the poem. It's really lovely. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. He followed her to school one day. That was against the rule. It made the children laugh and play to see a lamb at school. And so the teacher turned him out, but still he lingered near. and waited patiently about till Mary did appear. And then he ran to her and laid his head upon her arm, as if he said, I'm not afraid, you'll keep me from all harm. What makes the lamb love Mary so? The eager children cry. Oh, Mary loves the lamb, you know, the teacher did reply. And you, each gentle animal, in confidence may bind, and make them follow at your call, if you are always kind. And on the back here, it explains what I was talking to you about, that Sarah Josepha Hale, she was a very strong and famous woman from the early 1800s. She wrote a lot of articles and magazines and books about family and for women. And she actually wrote Mary Had a Little Lamb in, I think, the 1820s. It was first published in 1828. So this is a nursery rhyme that we all know and we think of as being old, but it's only about 100 years old. And interestingly, Sarah Josepha Hale was also the person, and this is a connection some of you may remember from when we studied about Abraham Lincoln. She's the person who wrote to Abraham Lincoln and encouraged him to fix the date of Thanksgiving and to make it a national holiday for our whole country. Before then, Thanksgiving was celebrated on slightly different days in different states. It wasn't considered such a big national holiday necessarily, but she encouraged Abraham Lincoln to set the date of Thanksgiving. So she was famous for a number of things. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that lovely version of Mary Had a Little Lamb with illustrations by Tomie dePaola. And I'll see you this afternoon, I think, for one more book about plants. See you later.